Has it has it really been a week already? Well, today, some of us really freaking love The Mandalorian. I mean, come on. It's like one of the best TV shows, or like shows on a streaming platform that is so freaking amazing. The episode we'll be talking about today is Season 2, Episode 5, titled The Jedi. Today I'll be reading a recap from The Ringer. I was going to read it from The Vulture, but apparently I've reached my monthly limit of reading stuff from them, so whatever. So from The Ringer, let's start. The teaser synopsis of the Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian could have been more generic. In quote, the Mandalorian and the child continue their journey through a dangerous galaxy. That spoiler-averse summary could have been applied to many of the episodes of the series, but the title, The Jedi, the length 47 minutes, the third longest so far after the Season 1 finale, the Season 2 premiere, and the writer-director, executive producer Dave Filoni, veteran of Rebels and the Clone Wars, and steward of all the Lucasfilm animation, belied the nondescript description, promising a momentous week. So, we all kind of had the idea that, spoiler alert, Ahsoka Tano was going to show up. That was a no-brainer. But I didn't expect the opening scene to have Ahsoka in it. I mean, like, wow. Rosario Dawson is doing such a great job. I noticed some complaints through Reddit and some discussion threads that saying her tendrils, her hair looking thing, is too short for her age. And I saw that the art director for the episode on Twitter tweeted out how they can make it longer without restricting her movement. So, the fifth episode of Season 2 is an emotionally resonant and narratively rich installment of The Mandalorian, but it's also the culmination of months of an anticipation, a love letter to fans from Filoni's former creations, and a work of world building with implications for the future of the franchise on both the big and small screens. The Jedi gives a name to the child, introducing a fan-favorite character from beyond the films to live action, while teasing the possible appearance of another, and fulfills the second season's mission to take The Mandalorian, the era-spinning, lore-linking centerpiece of Star Wars, though not without continued consequences for the spectator experience of the series as a standalone piece. Structurally speaking, The Jedi looks like almost any other episode. Mando and the child land on an unfamiliar planet, team up with an ally who has a grudge against local heavies, and with the weekly give and take completed, lift off for a fresh destination where they can continue their quest. This time, though, the ally is a pre-existing character with a special significance for Star Wars fans. Former Jedi Padawan Ahsoka Tano, who's appearing in the flesh for the first time, portrayed by Rosario Dawson. And unlike every other friend or foe Mando has encountered with his past adventures, Ahsoka is both willing and able to tell him who his sidekick is. I don't remember the original voice actor for Ahsoka. Let's see here. Ahsoka was originally voiced by Ashley Eckstein. She's like super cool. She recently just tweeted out about how Ahsoka lives within all of us, and Rosario Dawson retweeted it and said, I'm so glad hashtag Ahsoka Tano lives. I'm so glad that we can share the same experience. So that's another reason why I love this community so much, is because everybody loves each other. Even the actors and the portrayers. Like the Rise of the Skywalker, the Jedi starts with a lightsaber-wielding warrior in the woods laying waste to helmeted adversaries. The warrior is also trying to track down a hidden quarry, but her blades are white, not red, and her combat style is precise and stealthy, not blunt and unrestrained. Her ochre skin, white facial markings, and majestic montrals. Oh, the montrals, that's what the people were complaining about. and head tails mark her as Ahsoka. I never realized that her race was called that. Togruta. She's a Togruta. She's a Togruta force wielder who fought the Separatists during the Clone Wars as Anakin Skywalker's apprentice. Left the Jedi Order just as she neared knighthood and survived Order 66 and decades on the run from Imperial Inquisitors under Darth Vader's command. But as we know, Anakin is Darth Vader. After dispatching several defenders, Ahsoka stands before the gate of the walled city, where she confronts the magistrate, played by Bruce Lee's goddaughter, Deanna Lee Inosanto, basically Bruce Lee's granddaughter, and her henchman Lang. Michael Biehn, best known for starring as military men in the 80s sci-fi standouts The Terminator, Aliens, and The Abyss. The magistrate threatens to slaughter the city's subjugated populace if Ahsoka doesn't depart, but Ahsoka says she'll be back in a day. That day makes a difference. Following a tip about Tano from Bo-Katan, who must be in close contact with Ahsoka, she knew about the ex-Padawan's seemingly and permanent presence on the planet. Mando and the child land on Corvus, which, surprise surprise, turns out to be inhospitable. From orbit, the surface is stitched with lines of flame. On the surface, it's even less inviting. The forest planet Bo-Katan referred looks like the Lorax after the Onceler kills all the truffula trees. It's a nearly lifeless industrial wasteland obscured by smog belched from factories, one of which looms on the outskirts of Caladan, where the Razor Crest makes a much more controlled landing than it did on Maldo Kreese or Trask. So they're like landing, and like, because Bo-Katan's like, oh yeah, it's a forest planet. And Mando, we kind of notice, and it's just like ashen. All the trees are dying. These like huge creatures that look like AT-ATs in the back are munching on the trees in the back. So Mando, posing as an active bounty hunter, not as a tough persona for him to pull off, meets with a less violent reception than Ahsoka. Lang, a mercenary devoid of Din Djarin's newfound compassion, allows him to enter the downtrodden town, where the magistrate, whose pristine inner sanctum is ringed by tortured prisoners, in case there are any doubts about where our loyalties should lie, offers him a spear of pure Beskar to take care of the Jedi pest problem, which is cool because we'll see later that Beskar is lightsaber proof. The events of Season 1 taught Din to beware of bounty hunter givers. Blah, blah, blah. I just had another stroke. The event of Season 1 taught Din to be aware of bounty hunters bearing Beskar, but he pretends to take the bait. With the child in tow, Mando trudges to the coordinates the magistrate gave him where Ahsoka Tano waits. She ambushes Mando, who demonstrates Beskar's lightsaber blocking abilities as he fends off her offensive. He convinces her to stand down by dropping Bo-Katan's name and declaring that he's come to talk. End quote, I hope it's about him, end quote, Ahsoka says, indicating the child, whom she recognizes as a member of Yoda's species. The stage is set for a scene that is a series that has been building to ever since Din discovered the child in Chapter 1. It's time to reveal Baby Yoda's backstory. After communing with the kid in a wordless, force-infused exchange of feelings and memories, Ahsoka shares some significant use, for Mando and for us. The little green guy has a name, and it doesn't start with a Y. After calling him Baby Yoda or the child for about a year, Grogu will take some getting used to. And that's not all Ahsoka learns. Grogu's force skills aren't self-taught. Like her, he's a former resident at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, where many masters trained him over the years. At the end of the Clone Wars, presumably sometime before Ahsoka's former master showed up to massacre the younglings, someone took him from the temple and hid him away. Could it have been Yoda? Could it have been Yaddle? Or Obi-Wan? Like Ahsoka, he's been hiding from the Empire ever since, disguising his Force powers so as not to give himself away, unless he has to use them in pursuit for some frog eggs. It's somewhat surprising that Ahsoka and Grogu haven't met before. Ahsoka was raised at the temple from the age of 3, and one would think she had been aware of a fellow youngling like him. Not just because he's cute or because he'd probably been there for years by the time she arrived, but because members of Yoda's species aren't exactly low profile. Yoda and Yaddle, the only other known examples in Star Wars canon, the latter of whom Ahsoka seems to have gotten, were both on the Jedi Council during Ahsoka's time in training, and between their prominence in the Order and Grogu's midichlorian count, the kid would have been a Jedi top prospect. For whatever reason, the two aren't acquainted. The temple was big, and maybe the babies kept to themselves. But the quick conference and Ahsoka's own experience as a fugitive are enough to tell her that the little dude is damaged and filled with fear, as Anakin was, according to Yoda and Count Dooku. That explains why he hasn't used the Force except for when he's alone, one-on-one with Mando, or an extremist and forced to intervene to save the life of a friend. Maybe he and Mando get along so well not only because they're both foundlings, but because they're encased in some sort of armor, visible or otherwise. So it's super cool, I guess you could call it a training montage. It's not really a montage. But Ahsoka tries to get him to pick up a rock with the Force, kind of like what Yoda made Luke do. But he wouldn't do it, and so she told Din Djarin to try the rock. The kid wouldn't try the rock either. So then Din pulled out that little spherical ball. It was like a shift knob. And Grogu immediately used it. So maybe it's because he's still a child. He's still a baby. But it seems like he's got a really strong bond with Din. Like when Din called Grogu by his name, he like perked up and stuff. So maybe Grogu's like, finally you know my name, jeez. So Din expects Ahsoka to train Grogu, but like Yoda when Luke first arrives on Dagobah, she declines. A test of his telekinetic powers confirms that his skills haven't atrophied, but it also makes clear what has been long appeared to anyone who's watched Clan Mudhorn in action. Clan Mudhorn is Din and Grogu. Grogu has developed a deep bond with Din. He refuses to play force catch with Ahsoka, but when his adopted dad urges him to pluck his favorite shiny bauble from the Razor Crest control out of his hands, he quickly complies. Ahsoka's reaction shows that the two are attached, and the former friend and student of Anakin knows the danger of attachment too well. End quote. I've seen what such feelings can do to a fully trained Jedi Knight, to the best of us, she says. I will not start this child down that path. Ooh, that gave me chills. Because Anakin was very attached to Ahsoka. Mando doesn't take no for an answer. Instead, he offers to aid Ahsoka in her attempt to liberate Caladan. The magistrate, Ahsoka confides, is an enemy with the oddly normal name of Morgan Elsbeth. Elsbeth, a new character, not another artifact from the Filoniverse, is, like Din, Grogu, and Ahsoka, an orphan and a psychological casualty of the Clone Wars. Her people were massacred, probably by the Separatists, and her rage fueled by her efforts to bolster this Imperial Starfleet at the expense of the planets that supply the labor and raw materials. Corvus has become her latest victim. Mando and Ahsoka have something in common besides the bad memories of the Clone Wars. They're both good at getting over walls. They tag team Caladan's defense, with Ahsoka initially pretending to have killed Mando to preserve the element of surprise. As Din jokes, a Mandalorian and a Jedi, they'll never see it coming. As fans of Filoni's series can attest, Ahsoka is more than capable of taking out Lang, two samurai-esque HK-87 droids, another gift from Filoni to fans of classic snarker killer HK-47 from the Knights of the Old Republic, and a few foot soldiers, but they can't be everywhere at once. As she fights in the streets, Mando rockets into town just in time to save the prisoners who are about to be executed. They split up to tackle Kaladin's final bosses in a single combat, Ahsoka versus Morgan, and Mando versus Lang. You don't cast Bruce Lee's goddaughter just to have a hide behind bodyguards, and the Magistrate Powers proves to be the town's most formidable opponent, dueling Ahsoka in a standstill until the last Jedi finally knocks her Beskar stabby stick out of her hands. Ahsoka doesn't emphatically distance herself from the Jedi in Chapter 13, but in her animated and off-screen incarnations, she repeatedly rejected her old order, which unjustly tried her for treason. Most memorably, reminding Vader in Rebels, "I'm no Jedi." She still possesses the sabers and the skills and the impulse to protect innocents that hail from her former life, but she's less pacifistic and wary of revenge than a straight-laced pre-Imperial. Holding a lightsaber to Elsbeth's neck, Ahsoka demands to know the whereabouts of the Magistrate's master. Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? The mention of Thrawn, a Star Wars Expanded Universe icon restored to current canon where Filoni featured him in Rebels, is the third jaw-dropping development of the episode, after Ahsoka's debut and the bombshell that Disney can start telling a whole bunch of Baby Yoda merch under a new name. And the second that requires some specialized Star Wars knowledge to feel its full effect. A cut back to Mando obscures the Magistrate's fate. We don't know if Ahsoka executes her or turns her over to the happy Caledonians. Nor do we know if Elsbeth divulges Thrawn's location, although she doesn't deny knowing where he is. What we do know is that Mando does away with Lang, who makes a show of getting his shotgun-esque blaster, like Bean's weapons for close encounters in Terminator and in Aliens, but foolishly whips out his pistol, underestimating both Beskar's resilience and Mando's speed on the draw. One of the strengths of this series is its knack for leavening combat with comedy, which the Jedi achieves by making Mando and Lang listen to Ahsoka and Elsbeth fight from afar. File Lang and Elsbeth away with Fennec Shand on the list of Mandalorian baddies who went one and done, and add Beskar's spear to Mando's suite of armaments. Yeah, at the end, Mando gets the Beskar spear, which I think is a good thing, because if Mando's getting that Beskar spear, I see a duel with Moff Gideon and the Darksaber. Unlike Yoda, Ahsoka doesn't change her mind about accepting a questionable trainee. Not yet, at least. But in the time-honored tradition of characters who cross paths with Mando, she does give Din some useful intel. If he takes Grogu to the planet Tython, you'll find an ancient Jedi temple where Grogu will be able to choose his path. If he decides to open himself up to the Force, another Jedi might sense his presence and search for him. But, as Ahsoka notes, there aren't many Jedi left. Well, I mean, kind of one. Ezra. But Ezra's trapped in a ship with Thrawn somewhere in deep space. This series keeps its secrets close. The Mandalorian didn't divulge the names its leading duo until its 8th and 13th episode, respectively. Chapter 13 answered some questions, but it prompted many more. Who saved Grogu from Order 66? And how did he stay out of the Empire's clutches for decades? Will we see Ahsoka again in this season or the series? Is Thrawn the blue-skinned, red-eyed, and the art-loving tactical genius in league with Moff Gideon? Might reaching out of the Force at the Seeing Stone on Tython expose Grogu to Darth Sidious, like Frodo drawing Sauron's eye when he puts on the ring? Which Jedi, if any, will answer Grogu's call? A new character, or one of the few known survivors, such as Luke and Leia, Quinlan Vos, or Ezra Bridger? The former Padawan who disappeared along with Thrawn in the Season 4 Rebels, and whom Ahsoka and Sabine Wren set out to find. As Ezra told Thrawn shortly before the pair entered hyperspace, bound for parts unknown, whatever happens next, happens to the both of us. In tandem with the 2 episodes that preceded, which introduced Bo-Katan and foreshadowed Snoke and the decrepit clone Darth Sidious, the Jedi also poses a big picture question. Who is the Mandalorian for? Is it for the hardcore Star Wars lifers for franchise neophytes? Filoni's Lucas-loving muse, or Disney's blockbuster ambitions? The answer, it seems, is to be intended all of the above. But this season promised expansion in scale has made up for all the tap dancing more difficult. Jon Favreau and Filoni have stuffed their series with Easter eggs for Star Wars diehards from the start. But on a narrative level, it didn't matter that much whether one recognized the animal roast on a spit in the premiere is a Kowakian monkey lizard, let alone knew it by name. That's changed in the second season, especially after Chapter 10. The show has evolved to the point that viewers steeped into the expanded universe and animated series, and those Star Wars knowledge go no further than the films, are now having drastically different spectator experience, albeit both pretty rewarding ones, at least so far. I'm still trying to finish the Clone Wars and Rebels, but school just started back up today, which stinks. This episode was so good. I mean, I think it's definitely getting a 30 out of 30, this episode, for me. I don't know. It's just, I'm kind of torn, because I really don't know who Thrawn is yet. I mean, I haven't read the books, and I haven't watched Rebels yet, but, I mean, I've, wikied him and stuff like that, so there is some knowledge of that in my Star Wars dictionary in my brain, but other than that, I don't know Thrawn that much, and I don't know why Ahsoka was tried for treason, which I think I'm halfway through Season 3 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, so I'm getting through that. There's 7 seasons of that, and then there's 4 seasons of Rebels, but I'm super excited for Friday's new episode. Will they be going to that new planet for Grogu? Or will they get caught up by some space scum in the way? So yeah. Star Wars points for this one, 30 out of 30. 10 on all 3 points. So this one's my favorite so far. Sorry again for the super short episode. I think I'm going to keep these Mando episodes to maybe 20 to 30 minutes long. There really isn't much to talk about other than giving the recap and my review. So 30 out of 30 for me. Thank you guys so much for listening. Next week will be Season 2, Episode 6 of The Mandalorian. And I just can't wait. See you guys later.